Hey, welcome. This is a super fun, awesome Happy Time pedal show, and I'm Alex.
I'm Gabor.
Yeah, we got some switching stuff today. We've got the Boss ES5.
ES5, that's right. So before we start, big thank you to Ed and the guys at Roland Boss Australia for sending out this pedal board, minus a lot of the pedals on it, but a lot of that stuff. And also Mooloolaba Music. Big thank you to you guys for supplying some of the stuff. Links are below. The idea with this video is, Alex, why would you need a pedalboard effect switching system or loop switcher or pedalboard switcher, whatever you want to call it? Why would you need that?
There's a few different names for it floating around. Whatever you want to call it. Basically, we're going to go through some ideas of concepts of why you would have one in the first place.
Yes.
First of all, we're just going to talk about basically how you set it up, and the reason is a lot of the times you just get rid of a whole bunch of cable and a whole bunch of circuitry in your tone that isn't necessarily for the majority of your playing.
Yes.
So basically you get rid of all this stuff you're not using when you're not using it.
So basically with this, I mean, the way you've got to look at it with this, you've got the guitar going in the back here, but that goes straight into the input of this.
Yep.
And then goes to the output of this and comes out of there again. So everything else is within this, and even the dog likes it.
Oh, yeah.
So what it means is, if you're not using any pedals, if you turn everything off, so for example, if we do this and turn it off, it'll sound funny because we're using an emulator, but now it just goes straight in, straight out. So it'll sound such
This is a C chord. No, it's not. There's a volume pedal.
So this is, we're using the Mod Duo over Mod devices as an amp emulation, and has some effects and stuff on it as well. Yep. So, but when everything is off, it just goes straight in, straight out. There's a buffer here as well, which some people may like, some people may not like. I think especially if you're a live gigging musician, buffers are very good, and the Boss buffers usually are really good as well. Again, just saying it because there's a Boss one right in front of us. But
cool.
You're basically eliminating all the cables and all the circuitry of all the pedals in between. If you have them all running in line, even though they're all off, you're still going through all the pedals, through all the cables, and it will suck some of your tone out, and it will make things a little bit harder when it comes to troubleshooting. I mean, that's maybe point number 2.
Yeah, troubleshooting. So if you have a pedal go down or a patch cable go down, in a traditional pedal board setup, you look like an idiot because we've all been there.
Unplug everything just to try and find out.
Shows or rehearsal, you're kind of kicking things and swearing at the floor, and it's all goes wrong. This way, you can just take it out of the loop and keep going at least till the end of the song or the end of the set.
Yeah. So easier troubleshooting. You just quickly go through all the patches. You know, okay, this one is the one that doesn't work. Let's not turn it on. So that's maybe second sort of reason why you would use it. Also, what I have to say with this, and this is, again, different switching systems are different. We're just talking about the Boss one just because it's here and because they were so kind to send us this to do a video of. What you can do with this switching system is you can change the order of the effect on the fly as well. So a lot of times with switching systems, what will happen is you plug it all in, and it'll be in a certain order. And it's great. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. But sometimes you may want to change the order. You may want to change things. This can actually do it for you. What was great with this, for example, on this particular pedal board, I was sent the pedal board with the ES5 on it and the expression and a volume pedal and a tuner on it, and all the cables and power, nothing else. So what I sort of did was just randomly plug pedals in, and I mean, the reverb, I think, is in loop 2, and it shouldn't be in loop 2, but it is in loop 2. But the cool thing is I can actually move it to the back of the, I can change the order of it. So, I mean, that's another good thing you can do, for example, with this. You can change the order on the fly.
I think that's really good with, like, drives and boosts and fuzzes.
You can
stack them differently depending on the tones you want to get. So that's really handy. And should we see what some tones we've got in front of us?
Loop 3, again, that should really be at the end, but I moved it to the end. So if we're looking at this, if we can quickly see this, this is actually the order of loops. You've got in on the right, then loop 1 comes first, loop 5, which is the ecstasy, comes second. So loop 1 is the fuzz, loop 5 is the Bogner ecstasy, loop 4 is that one, I think? Yeah, that one, the the slicer.
Yep.
Loop 5, well, the next loop, which is loop 2, is the reverb, and 3 is that one.
Yes.
So I change the order just to make sure that the amp is last.
Yeah.
And the reverb is before the amp, not in front of the fuzz and stuff like that. So hang on, let's go back to that. Okay, so let's get some sounds. So this is just basic sounds. We're going back to memory mode. So this is presets. And this is actually another reason why you have a loop switcher. Quick changing of sounds.
Yeah. So if you've got a band, whether it's original or like a covers show,
or anything,
tribute show, corporate act, if you're doing quick sonic changes during a song,
yep,
something like this with pre-programs, loop changes instantly to a completely different tone.
Especially if you're seeing, and we'll get into it a little later on because I've got my actual pedal board, which is an ES8 on it, which we'll go through a little bit later in the video. But especially when you're singing, you quite often don't have time to change 6 pedals, right, to go from one part to the next. So it makes it much quicker. So with this, for example, we can do suchly.
Okay, so...
And so on and so on. You can do relatively quick changes on the fly.
Yeah.
Just purely by having, you can have multiple pedals assigned to each one of these. So with this particular switcher, you've got a bank button here where you can flick between different banks of presets. But if you hold it in, it goes into a thing called manual mode where you can actually turn individual pedals on and off. Right. At the moment, it was only the Mod Duo, which is the amp emulation on there, was turned on.
Cool.
So that's one thing. Another cool thing you can do is you can use, and especially that's, now again, we're talking generally loop switches, but looking at the Boss ES8 in front of us, some really, really cool MIDI stuff you can do with this.
Yeah, so we've got the Mod Duo hooked up with MIDI. What else have we got with MIDI?
At the moment, this one we only have the Mod Duo. On my board, we'll do some. There's some more things hooked up via MIDI. So at the moment, we only have the Mod Duo hooked up via MIDI. And what we're actually doing is we're not using it to change patches or anything on here via MIDI. We're going to add effects, and we're going to use an expression pedal that is actually, this expression pedal is connected to this via TRS cable, and then goes out via MIDI to this. So what we can do, for example, in this patch, let's just say, let's turn on the, this is delay and this is an overdrive. Let's turn on the overdrive. So what I can now do is with this button, and that's actually another cool thing you can do with this, is you can reassign the buttons to do different things. So it doesn't have to do any of the things that it says it is. You can actually change it. This button, the way it is set when you get this thing out of the box, is a mute switch, which is meant for if you have a tuner and you use a tuner out, that would mute everything. But because we've got a volume pedal and we've got the tuner coming out of the tuner out of the volume pedal, we don't need that mute switch. So I actually turned that function off on here. And now I now assigned it to be a MIDI switch. And what that does is actually in here there's a whammy pedal and it turns that whammy pedal on. So right now if you play, it doesn't do anything. If I push this, so
that was a fun.
So basically what you're doing is via MIDI I'm sending because this is you've got limited real estate, you only have 2 buttons you can assign to certain things. So what you can do is you can, and that goes with lots of things. So whether you use like a Line 6H at Stomp, or if you use multi-effect tuner to HX effects, or whatever you want to use, you run out of space of things to do. You can actually assign on a lot of other loop switches too that have MIDI compatibility, but this particular Boss one, it's really cool. You can actually reassign this button. You could make this, if you wanted to, you could make this a global tap tempo, which then via MIDI sends out, tap tempo stuff to everything. So you have, you can link everything, sync everything together, because that's got an internal clock. It's set to 133 beats per minute at the moment. But so with this, I've got it set so it turns on a whammy. Now, if we go to this preset,
okay, get the volume up.
So in this particular preset, this button doesn't turn a whammy on anymore in here. It turns on a tremolo, harmonic tremolo in here. So, I mean, long story short, it gives you an opportunity, loop switches give you an opportunity, A, to shorten the length of your cables, B, if there's any troubleshooting, easier to find where it is, C, quicker access to big changes in sounds.
Yeah, sonically. And also, with these ones, they're very customizable.
That's the thing, super customizable. That's actually what I've got my own on my board, and Boss didn't send it to me. I have an ES8 that I use because I think it's great. What you can do with it.
And you can, like you say, reassign buttons to do anything you want.
Yeah.
Control depends on what pedals you've got
and
on the board.
And you see on my board, I have actually quite a few buttons that are changed that do completely different things. So
should we check that out?
Maybe let's check that out. So that's the first pedal board. Let's go to pedal board number 2.
Yeah.
And we're back with my pedal board now. We've actually had a lot of requests.
Check it out.
For us to post things about our boards and stuff like that. So this is my pedal board. This is nothing here was sent to us by Boss. This is my ES8. I bought it because I thought it was excellent and does things that I wanted to do really, really, really well. And so do all the other pedals. So, and I just noticed actually as well, or we just noticed, neither of the pedal boards go into amps. The other one had amp emulation on the, not that it matters, and I've got the Atchik Stomp on here. Okay, so the way this works, right, and with this part, I'm going to go into why I use a loop switcher more, my personal reason for using it.
Sure.
So, and the way I use it at the moment, and it's a transitional stage at the moment because I only just got this. So prior to this, I still ran into a head, but at the moment, so signal goes into the interfacer by Goodwood Audio, goes out of that into the compressor, which is usually always on.
Always on, okay.
With very mild compression, if any. It's just a little bit, but it just makes a little bit of a difference. And I do have a boost that's in front of things that I can use if I want to drive something a bit more. If I need that go to 11 moment, that's the boost. From there, it goes into the ES8. Then out of the ES8 into the tonal recall, and from the tonal recall to the Atchik Stomp. Now, we'll go through all the loops too. The way I've got the Atchik Stomp as well, which is kind of cool. So at the moment, we're going out of the left and right output stereo into your thing. But I also have the effect send here on.
Yep.
And that goes back to here, to the left output. So I can use a left output here prior to all the amp modeling on here. So I could technically run that into an amp without all the amp modeling on here. I can still use the effects in here.
Wet, dry, wet or something.
Yeah, or depending on what you want to do. So if I do gigs that I do and I bring my own PA, I run it into into the PA. Sometimes people don't like that. There's not, you have backline and stuff like that. Just go into an amp. I can just bypass that and just go straight out. So just to sort of throw it in there. Now loop wise, the way I've got it set up, I've got loop 1 is the whammy, loop 2 is the front end of this. So with this, you can split it in 2. So it's stereo in, stereo out, but you can have it so some effects go in through output 1, come out through output 1, some effects come out through output 2, so you can have things pre-post drive. So this is sort of for modulation and stuff like that. Loop 3 is the freak out. Loop 4 is the kilt. Loop 5 is the king of tone. Loop 6 is the box of rock. Loop 7 is the other half of the H9. Loop 8 is the boost.
Cool.
Yeah? And then from there, like I said, it goes into this. So the way I use it, right? We were talking about it before, or one of the reasons I use it, I sing a lot in bands. So if I go back to memory mode, I have basically, the way I've got it set up is I've got these bottom 6 are presets for me.
Cool.
So for example, we've got a clean, one called Box of Rocks, it's just a driven sort of clean. We've got a crunch sound, which is that one. We've got a lead sound, which is that with a bit of boost. And you can also tell probably every time I do it, the preset on the Eventide changes. So I have that hooked up via MIDI, so I've got the preset changed. Yep. It may not always be on, but it's on, but it may not always be on in the loops. But the algorithm changes for that particular patch. Cool. So I've got a lead sound, I've got a synth lead sound, which is
should we hear that?
It could be loud.
Okay.
And I have a fuzz sound, which is this. So it's quite easy to very quickly change sound. So the way I have it set up because most of the time when I play gigs, I'm the main singer, or at least 50% of the time I sing.
Sure.
Most of them, yeah, not all, but most of them. So I have it set up so I can, when I sing, very quickly, very easily go between sounds. I know what's what. You know, I can very quickly, if I sing and I want to go to a chorus, or I want to go to a lead bit, or I want to do a synth part, or anything, you know, I can very quickly change things.
Yes.
So that's sort of one of the reasons. Now, the other reason why I really like this thing, for example, is, like I mentioned before, with the ES5 and the ES8, MIDI, the MIDI side of it, I think, there is no other loop switcher that comes quite close, in my opinion, to what you can do with the MIDI. And also the fact that you can change buttons to do things they're not meant to do. So, for example, on here, these are my presets, right? Now,
it's the synth noise.
Bank up and bank down don't actually change the bank up and bank down here anymore. What it actually does is I can preview it banks up and down on the Eventide. So I can actually flick, I don't know if you can see it, but I can flick through all the presets. They're not activated until I push the button active.
Yep.
So I can have this, like for example, we're going to go to the synth sound. Mm-hmm. And I can cue up, I don't know, I think that's black hole reverb. So it's not on until I hit that. It's a massive reverb. Yeah. So what I can do, the way I have it set up, I changed these buttons. So I turned off the actual functionality on this, like the actual bank up and down. And this is setting MIDI signals to the Eventide. So I can scroll through the presets. While I'm playing, I can go, I want something else. I can actually change it, and by pressing activate, I can actually turn it on, right?
The preview thing's such a good idea because you're not actually flicking through sounds and messing up what you're playing.
No, and that's actually even the H9 is excellent as well with MIDI. Like really, really, really good with MIDI. So you can say exactly what you want it to do as you're doing things. Yeah. The other thing it does. So with this as well, you've got a mute switch, which the mute switch is meant for if you use a tuner, you hit the button and it will mute everything so you can tune, and it goes to the tuner out. I used to have a tuner sitting here, and this has got a tuner out, and you can mute this, which you can't now because that's muting the output, but which is not there anymore. It's there anyway. Complicated. There used to be a tuner there. Now I use this tuner, which mutes it anyway. So there's a tuner on here.
Cool. I'm sure.
I mean, it doesn't matter.
I'm sure.
So I don't use it. But so anyway, the mute switch.
Yeah.
I changed the mute switch to be what's called a hot switch for the Eventide.
Yeah.
So this again sends MIDI information to the Eventide. So for example, on a synth patch, I can do an octave jump. And it does different things on different presets. So it's the H9 is a thing called a hot switch, which you can assign that big button to be the hot switch, or you can assign things, but I still want the tap tempo, I still want to be able to activate it. Why not? I've got a spare button on here.
Of course, it works for H9's like a great pedal, but a lot of people have big Strymon pedals on their boards.
I used to have a Strymon pedal in here, and it used to do all that sort of same stuff as well.
The same thing. Of course, Boss stuff like the slicer we had on the other board.
Yep.
And all the other bigger Boss stuff. The
and now like the delays and modulation and reverb, the big ones, you know.
Yeah.
You can do all that with it. And the other cool thing with... Okay, and then just to finish it off, and then I've changed buttons 7 and 8, preset 7 and 8. That actually now goes through the banks.
Cool.
So with that, if I'm in memory mode, I can go through the banks, just if I wanted to change banks. One of the reasons why I did that is because I quite often go between memory and manual mode, right? So you push that button. If the lights are blue, basically each one of these will change as many effects as you want, set MIDI information to everything. You can set MIDI information to here as well, so you can change amp sounds in here. If I wanted, I haven't actually hooked it up like that yet. It used to be hooked up that it actually, different patches would go to different MIDI thing on here, as in different whammy sound in here as well, or harmonizer sound.
Change the intervals. And...
You can change it, but I didn't have a MIDI cable to hook both up. I didn't have a long enough cable at the moment, so because it's like I said, transitional stage. But anyway, so the preset thing, right? I usually live in that most of the time when I sing.
Sure.
But when I don't sing, or like if I do solos and stuff like that, a lot of times what I will do is I push this button and go into what's called manual mode. So the light switch change to red. Now each one of them, you can turn each individual loop on. So if I want now, for example, I have these two on, so it's a crunchy rhythm sound. So I can individually bring loops in, right?
Kind of more like a straight ahead analog switcher.
Yeah, but the cool thing is because I changed these buttons, these three, they're not affected by the memory manual thing.
Sure.
So I can still change the presets on here at any time.
Very
you know
cool.
what I mean? So this is the same whether I'm in memory or in manual mode. It doesn't matter. I can't change banks at the moment.
Yep.
Like preset banks, but I don't need to because I'm in manual mode, right? So with this, I can individually turn things on and off.
Cool.
So that's basically the way I use it. That's how I use it, and that's what I like about this thing so much. The only thing I would really like to see, boss, if you're listening, in an update or something maybe, the thing that kind of annoys me a little bit is, let's say I'm in this crunch sound now, right? Yes. But I wanted to have this pedal on instead of that one for the crunch sound for whatever reason, right?
Sure.
If I now hit this button to go back to memory mode, it goes back to the preset, so it automatically switches back to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if I change something in manual mode, so if you play, as soon as I hit this, it goes back to the preset.
Sure.
What I would love to see is that you go back to this and you can go to memory mode, but it still holds on
until you go back to
until you press that button again. Then it goes back to the preset. It just holds on to the changes. So you could, because that would make life even easier, because then sometimes, you know, you play something on the fly, you kind of go, you know what, I would really like whammy in this, you know?
Yeah, you do.
But now, you know, I'm going back to singing again, and I go, oh, I don't really want to turn it off right at that moment, but I have to because I have to press this and go back to that, or I manually have to change things on here. That's the only thing. I mean, it would be nice to have that. That's the only thing I can complain about.
Okay.
Anyway, it's a stupid complaint, but so that's the way I use it. So for me, it really is. I'm definitely not someone who. I wouldn't consider myself a tone snob or like purist in any way. Mm-hmm. I don't particularly care about whether the tone is better because you don't go through all the pedals and all the loops. For probably a good decade plus, I used to have a pedal board where I used to go through every pedal and it was fine. I was fine with that. Sure. That kind of stuff that's not why I got this. For me, that's not an issue, the tone sucking thing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The reason why I got this is, A, the problem solving is fantastic because if one pedal goes down, if something happens with power, if something happens with a patch cable, you can just take one pedal out, and very quickly, very, very quickly, you can go through your presets and just take that pedal out. It literally take 20 seconds between a song. You just take one pedal out quickly. It's no big drama, and then you have all your presets, everything's still going, just minus one pedal because the pedal broke, or the power supply to it broke, or
more likely a patch cable.
You know, and then in a set break or later on you can fix it, but can very easily change these things. So that's one of the reasons why I like switchers, and why I had different switchers that I used before, like analog, just, you know, on-off loop switches kind of thing. One of the main reasons I went with this is because of the MIDI side of it.
Sure.
And because when you're using the H9 is fantastic, but it is very limited in your use unless you have something that can control it.
Yep.
Or you can get those things with the two little buttons that attaches to the front.
Yeah, it's kind of one thing at a time.
But
this way it expands your capability to...
Much more. And this way, I literally, and again, I don't know how good you can see it in the video, but every single one of these presets has a different effect on it. It changes to that, and then a lot of times they're not even on. But I can turn it on with either one of those. Depends on the before or after the dry section. So that's the second reason why I bought this, and probably the main reason why I bought this, the MIDI switching capabilities, because I like using effects, and to me it's fun more than anything else, using effects. And I like the fact that you can it's super simple. So from my point of view, it makes things easier, quicker for when you sing, especially when you sing, you don't have to push as many pedals.
Yeah.
Also the fact that you can change the order of loops is fantastic. Not that I use it a huge amount because of the eventide things, you can change where that is anyway. But the order of loops is great. The ease of use, troubleshooting, for that sort of stuff. I think it's a killer product, personally.
Very cool. Nice.
So does that cover everything? So this is me. So
sure.
Like for example, quickly, you have just an analog kind of switcher.
Yep.
6 channel?
Yes, I think
yes.
So. I'm probably going to lose that though. I'm just scaling my board down, so I don't really have a use for a switcher. And none of my pedals are really MIDI or digital.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I can see because you're running more digital stuff with the amp emulation, the H9 in particular, and also the whammy, which you can change parameters and intervals. There's particularly when you want large sonic jumps in your tone.
It makes huge sense.
That's where you go.
I mean, with all the Chase Bliss stuff, I mean, just to throw extra things in it, the thing is you have... you can hook up a lot of things to it, and you have a lot of MIDI assigns per patch, and that's a cool thing. Is it's for each patch you can completely customize the whole thing. So I mean, just because I've got the bank scrolling on this particular patch, it doesn't mean it has to be that on that patch. It can be something completely different. You can completely customize it per preset.
Very cool.
Which is pretty insane, in my opinion.
Nice. Thanks for hanging out and watching the video on why you need a loop switcher.
I hope that made sense, and hope that helped in any way, shape or form.
Leave comments below, and also there's links below to our Instagram and Facebook accounts, as well as our podcast. We chat about this kind of stuff all the time. Hit like and subscribe, much appreciated, and the notification bell. We'll shoot you a message next time there's a video up.
And big thank you to Ed and the guys at Roland and Boss Australia and Mooloolaba Music. All the links are below. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Bye.